The Capital Confidential podcast is brought to you by the Times-Union, the leading newspaper in New York's capital region. Subscribe today or visit online at timesunion.com.
When it comes to the early stages of any first-in-the-nation primary, the contenders on the sidelines, not yet officially in the race, can exert a unique influence over the field. That was certainly the situation for Democrats in 1991. There was hesitation over the prospect of running against an incumbent president whose approval rating had reached an astronomical 89%. Governor Mario Cuomo was a leading example of a big-time candidate in waiting squarely on the fence, refusing to decide whether to run or stay put in New York.
You want to deport an undocumented person? Start with me, because I'm an undocumented person.
How do we beat him in an election?
We will. I'm going to run against him.
I wish you would. I wish you would, Dad. I would.
There are things in here that are unobjectionable because they're not that effective. So yeah, sure, I'll vote for a distinctive license plate. Sure, why not?
Jim, you had your press conference at 4 o'clock.
You're having a press conference now?
That's
You're
right.
talking?
I'm having a press conference.
Well,
now.
is this your space here or is it public?
No, it's my space.
Oh, this is your
Don't
space.
interrupt.
Okay.
This is the Capital Confidential podcast, and I'm your host, David Lombardo. And thank you, WMUR TV newsman Adam Sexton, for summing up the situation leading up to the 1992 Democratic primary so succinctly. This episode of the podcast explores then-Governor Mario Cuomo's decision not to run for president through the eyes of former communications staffer Terry Lynam, who had been dispatched to New Hampshire to lay the groundwork for a run. While the current Cuomo has emphatically denied any plans to run, other Democratic contenders around the country are beginning to throw their hat into a very crowded ring. So I thought it made sense now to look back in history for this show. And once you're done listening, check out the link in the episode description to WMUR's Look Back at the 92 campaign, which features insights from the New Hampshire Democratic chairman, who offered his own thoughts on what could have happened if the elder Cuomo ran. But first, for my sake, enjoy this show. It's not much of a spoiler, but, Mario Cuomo doesn't end up running. About 90 minutes before the filing deadline in New Hampshire, he tells a crowded press conference in the Capitol that he's not going to run. Where is Terry Lynam at that point? Where are you, and what were you expecting as the other possible outcome for that day?
So the campaign had dispatched about, I'd say, probably a dozen or so people from the Capitol up to Concord, New Hampshire. When we left, we kind of carpooled. Many of us piling in. There was probably a half a dozen folks who ended up driving up there. And as you well know, Concord's not exactly a hop, skip, and a jump from Albany. We never really had a firm understanding of what direction he was going to go in. In our heart of hearts, we were hoping that he would go for it, make the leap, and get into the race. But we were obviously on the front lines of responding to countless media calls. We had national TV networks, other reporters who were kind of staked out at the Capitol, looking for news on a daily basis about what was going on. Phones were constantly ringing, people trying to get some insight as to what the governor's thinking was. So when I got the call to go up there, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So we went up there. We had some discussions with some of the New Hampshire Democratic Party leaders up there who were who wanted to just kind of establish plans for if indeed the governor did jump into the race. We needed to organize a news conference. We needed a place to hold a news conference. A lot of it was even, I remember we had to arrange for the construction of some platform that he could use as a staging platform for an announcement. So the aircraft was prepared to fly the governor to Concord. We had gone up the night before and again had meetings and kind of prepared for what was going to happen, and we were ready to go. And then we were told that the governor was holding a news conference we didn't get a lot of notice. I remember it was being very quick. I remember we were at the hotel waiting, and we got the word that the governor was holding a news conference. So we ran down to the hotel bar and watched it on TV. So that's when we finally got the word that because of the impasse with the Senate Republicans that he wasn't going to jump in the race.
Well, you said you wanted him to run. So how did it feel watching that announcement?
When he announced that he wasn't going for it, it was very deflating. There was a lot of excitement around it. I was 32 years old at the time, so I was a relatively young guy. And the whole idea it was a very exciting time to work for the governor at the time because he had been presidential timber for several years at that point, and there had been ever since his 1984 Democratic Convention speech in San Francisco, he had been heralded.
In many ways, we are a shining city on a hill. But the hard truth is that not everyone is sharing in this city's splendor and glory. A shining city is perhaps all the president sees from the portico of the White House and the veranda of his ranch, where everyone seems to be doing well. But there's another city. There's another part to the shining city. The part where some people can't pay their mortgages, and most young people can't afford one. Where students can't afford the education they need, and middle-class parents watch the dreams they hold for their children evaporate. In this part of the city, there are more poor than ever, more families in trouble, more and more people who need help but can't find it. Even worse, there are elderly people who tremble in the basements of the houses there. And there are people who sleep in the city's streets, in the gutter, where the glitter doesn't show. There are ghettos where thousands of young people without a job or an education give their lives away to drug dealers every day. There is despair, Mr. President, in the faces that you don't see, in the places that you don't visit, in your shining city.
So that there was always, whenever there was talk about Democrats who could carry the torch, the Governor Cuomo's name always came up. So it was a very exciting time to be working for him, and he was a very demanding boss, but he was also very personable, and we played basketball on at least a weekly basis, if not twice a week, and so there was a lot of interaction with the governor. We traveled as one of his press officers. We traveled with him frequently, so we all felt like we were very close in touch with him on both a professional basis and a personal basis through basketball. And it was fun being around him. He was a very demanding individual, had very high standards, but he was a great person to work for. And at the time, the whole idea of him running for president was it was just very stimulating. It was a very exciting place to be at the time. So yeah, when we got the word that he wasn't going to do it, it definitely took the wind out of our sails.
And besides submitting a filing to actually run, what sort of things were you guys doing in New Hampshire to lay the groundwork for a potential campaign? I mean, you talked about the people driving up there, but what was your focus? What was your task in New Hampshire?
So it's funny. My before I got on the phone, I was trying to think through some of the specifics. I recall that we were having a lot of there was a lot of organization on the ground that was being led by some of the governor's supporters within the Democratic Party in New Hampshire. They were the ones who, for instance, were making arrangements with local contractors to again build like a makeshift stage where we could hold the event. And in reality, I felt like, aside from sitting in on meetings and talking about strategy and planning talking in very general terms about the event, the news conference, etc. It was really just a waiting game. We weren't, until we actually got the word that the governor would be coming, there wasn't a heck of a lot for us to do.
And what was the atmosphere like nationally that sort of made it so that Mario Cuomo would be the potential Democratic candidate? And what was the field like at the time? I mean, it seems like it wasn't akin to what we see coming into 2020, where, as long as you're over 35 and a Democrat, you're probably running for president. It seems like the field was probably not as populated back then.
Bill Clinton's name was certainly prominent at that time, but he was not viewed necessarily as a front runner. Mm-hmm. I'd have to say, if memory serves me correct, that Governor Cuomo at the time was viewed as the leading potential Democratic candidate at the time. That's why there was so much intense media coverage of every nuance, everything he said, and the governor was very very coy about his intentions, and that, as you recall from the whole Hamlet on the Hudson discussion, that he never wanted to close the door entirely, but certainly never gave any firm indication that he was that he was strongly considering it. So. And that's a kind of added a level of intrigue to that whole period.
The New York media writes a lot of speculation currently about our Cuomo governor and his national ambitions, despite the fact that he says he's not going to run for president, and the fact that I don't think he's going to run for president. But how does the coverage now compare to the coverage in 91 for Mario Cuomo? Is it comparable? Is it less? Is it more?
Well, I think certainly the time frame wise, it's the campaign season begins a heck of a lot earlier now than it used to, and so
there's a shorter window back then of reporting on this stuff.
Oh yeah, it really was, and again, even though at the time, typically like now you have dozens of potential Democratic candidates who are looking to challenge President Trump, and so back then you obviously had a Republican president, but unlike today, the field was not nearly as deep as it is today, and not nearly as large, and that's the one thing that strikes me. And in regards to Governor Andrew Cuomo, I mean he unlike his father, he has been much more explicit about his intention not to run. I had thought that Governor Andrew Cuomo actually would consider a run, but he kind of tamped down that speculation pretty firmly in recent weeks, in the last couple of months.
It seems like he doesn't have the same national profile that his father had.
That could be, but I think he is prominent. Who knows what
We get trapped in that New York bubble, so we have sometimes we don't know how prominent people actually are. We think that if it's New York, that they must be prominent. I think that's what I feel.
Yeah,
like
they must know it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. I suppose. I think probably compared to his father at the time, his profile is not quite as large nationally.
So talk to me a little bit about the remarks the governor made on that fateful day in 1991 when he announced that he would not seek the party's nomination and wouldn't throw his hat in the ring, period.
So it was, at the time it was underscoring his commitment to doing the job that he was elected to do as governor, that he felt like he was obligated, that he felt like he couldn't walk away from his obligations as governor in the middle of a budget fight with the state legislature.
It's my responsibility as governor to deal with this extraordinarily severe problem. Were it not, I would travel to New Hampshire today and file my name as a candidate in its presidential primary. That was my hope, and I prepared for it.
In terms of those who worked for him, there was a sense of disappointment because at the time there were budget impasses every year. So the fact that at that particular time there was also Senate Republicans were also at loggerheads with the governor and the Democratic-controlled assembly. It's like, well, what else is new? You know, it was not something that was really surprising. The economy was going through a tough period at that time. So I remember, and that was probably the thing that ended up sinking President Bush at the time in '92, is that the economy did take a slide during his last year or two in office. But again, I think all of us felt like, you know, he can run and get through this. But you know, there was that sense of obligation that he felt like that you know, he couldn't justify it.
So, you know, the unanswerable question is, you know, if Mario Cuomo had gotten in the race, how do you think he would have fared in the Democratic primary? Could you see him out in the cornfields of Iowa, shaking hands, kissing babies? I mean, what do you think it would have been like, and could he have gotten the nomination? Although
the governor was a great campaigner, I don't think that he really truly enjoyed doing it. I think the idea of running for national office, you really have to have the fire in your belly to do that. The feeling among many of us is that he just did not have that burning desire to run for president in the first place. There was always others who were kind of pulling him into that whole debate about the presidency. Even though he was not a huge fan of campaigning, you know, there were countless stories about how the governor always liked to sleep in his own bed at night in Albany and would take these long trips but always return home and back to Albany and sleep at the mansion. So again, he was not, while he did an incredible amount of traveling, he was not a big fan of it and did not like to travel. So again, I think the idea of running for national office and all the incredible time and energy that went into that, and then again, I think he truly enjoyed being governor at the time. You know, afterwards, what happened after Governor Clinton was elected president? You know, there was speculation that the governor is going to get a job and an appointment to the Supreme Court. That was kind of exciting at the time. I went to work for Lieutenant Governor Stan Lundeen in late 1992, I believe it was. So I think it was 93 is when there was an opening on the U.S. Supreme Court. So again, a lot of speculation at that time that, okay, Governor Cuomo is going to get an appointment to the Supreme Court. You know, so at that time, working for the lieutenant governor, okay, if that was going to happen, that would have obviously thrust Stan Lundeen into the spotlight to a much greater degree. And one of the challenges being I was press secretary to the lieutenant governor, Stan Lundeen, and you know, that was one of the harder jobs that I ever had, because you're out trying to tout the number two person in the state, and you know, you're always playing second fiddle to some degree, and it was, you know, it was tough. I had to work hard to get the kind of media attention that for the lieutenant governor that comes naturally for the governor, especially somebody like Mario Cuomo. So the idea that you know, that Stan Lundeen might actually be running for governor was kind of exciting for us at the time too.
Well, Terry, that's everything I got for you. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your memories from this exciting time in history.
Yeah, no, it was good taking a walk down memory lane here. Stirred some old memories.
Just heard I tried to get you.
Ah! This day sucks!